I am Missy Bolden with Stride Career Prep, a K-12 powered program. And thank you for tuning in to On Location. This is our new weekly show where we check in with working professionals from all walks of life and get invaluable information and advice about exploring, developing, and thriving in their chosen career. We do want you to leave any comments. We want to make sure we are covering topics that's beneficial. If there's something you want us to talk about, please let us know. Don't forget to subscribe. And today I'm excited to have Lyle and Sam Harvey, and they are from Windy Acres Farm. How are you guys doing?
Good. How are you?
So agriculture is actually one of our pathways. So I was excited to see that we were going to be talking to someone who has a farm. And I know that, traditionally when you think of farming, you're like, oh, people are doing other things now. But nowadays it is so important to think about what you're eating. People are really wanting to eat healthy. And, agriculture, I think sometimes is one of those jobs or careers that doesn't really get the light that it should, because we're all eating. And so somebody is responsible for all of that good food. It should be good food that we're eating. So I want to just dive right in. And the first thing I want to ask, because I know the both of you guys have had a variety of other careers, and Lyle, I know you're doing some interesting things, and we may get into that in another episode. But when did you know you wanted to be farmers? And if you could talk a little bit about your journey to farming.
Our journey really probably started, we were living out in Seattle in 2006, 7, 8. And we read a book called The Omnivore's Dilemma, and it really talked about the industrial food system in this country. And so that sowed a little seed in our heads of like, oh, I didn't realize food was raised that way and animals were treated that way. And so we sort of started to make more conscious decisions about, what we purchased and where it came from. And then we moved back. I grew up on a farm, a dairy farm in Middle Tennessee. And so we moved back to my parents' farm, and kind of with the idea that we would produce our own food and sort of, try to eat as healthy as possible. That kind of morphed into like, oh, I really loved the work. I loved, putting up fences and rotating cows and working outside and working with my hands. And so,
but you should mention that as a kid, you did not enjoy the chores and the farming.
Yeah, as a kid, I definitely wanted to be anywhere but the farm. Work as a kid wasn't great. But I love the work, and I realized we have some land here, so why don't we try to produce good nutrient-dense food for the community?
And could you just talk about maybe a turning point or a big surprise along that journey, and what did you learn from it?
I would say there's a turning point and a surprise every day. We're always learning, and you're always kind of seeing what Mother Nature throws at you, seeing how Mother Nature works. And for us, we moved to a new farm in 2018, which we had been doing more grass-fed beef and pastured chickens and pigs. And this farm is a certified organic grain farm that also has livestock as well. And so farming grains is completely different from farming grass-fed beef. And so taking on the grain operation, we're, having to learn whole new skills and trying to learn how plants grow to harvest grain versus how grass grows to harvest beef, and it's very different, but it's a constant learning. And I feel like, turning points every day.
But I think coming to this farm was a really big turning point. We had been on his parents' farm, and it was smaller acres, kind of different landscape, very hilly. This land is very flat, bottomland. It's a bigger farm. It's about 500 acres. And for instance, when we were growing our broiler chickens on the other farm, we have these movable pens, so the chickens are getting fresh grass every day, and we're rotating them so the pastures are getting that manure, and it's adding to soil fertility. And when we moved here, it's so windy. The farm is called Windy Acres, and it's literally like this wind tunnel. So even though we were still in Middle Tennessee, it's still a very different landscape. And just we had to adapt the broiler pens and use these stakes for windstorms, because literally the pens would blow. And we had a couple incidents of losing a lot of chickens. So that's kind of how farming is. You're just always thrown different challenges. And a lot of people might not think farming's intellectually challenging, but it is, because you're really always having to problem solve. And I know for Sam, because he grew up with tractors, but not the big equipment that we have here, these huge combines and diesel motors. So he literally has to pull out these huge manuals this thick and just start teaching himself with YouTube videos and manuals and just figuring it out. And
YouTube is key. You can learn anything on YouTube pretty much.
Yeah.
So what would be one piece of advice that you would give to students and really all learners who are thinking about a career in agriculture?
I would say if you're thinking about going into agriculture, there's a lot of farms around the country that, need help. And so like do an internship. Farming is long hours. We're not white collar workers. We don't necessarily have big paychecks at the end of the day, but so you really have to love the work. You have to love what you do. You have to love working outside. And to us, that's the beauty of it. Our commute is the best commute in the world. We just walk out the front door. I would say, go work on farms and see what it's all about.
A couple of things that you said that I really want to touch on that I think's important. I really like when Lyle said a lot of people don't think that it's an intellectual career, but actually it requires a lot of problem solving. So people who find that they're great problem solvers, this could possibly be a career for you. And then also that you have to love the work. You have to love what you're doing. It's convenient. Walking right out the door, you're not dealing with traffic and things of that nature. And then also, Sam, I remember you mentioned that you didn't necessarily enjoy it as a kid, but as you got older, I think that seed was planted when you were younger. So when you started to hear what was going on in the industry, there was a part of you that really felt like, you know what, I think I should, really get in there. So, and last but not least, you said it's full of surprises. There's a surprise every day. So a person who doesn't want to be bored, wants to have a kind of new thing to do every day, farming or a career in agriculture may be a good fit for you. Sam and Lyle, thank you so much for your time. And thank you for watching. Don't forget, this is a weekly show, so we will have another show for you next week. Leave a comment. We want to hear from you. And don't forget to subscribe. This is On Location, career and life advice from professionals in the field. Thank you, Sam and Lyle.
Thank you. Have a good day.